Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the May 20th MLB DraftKings lineup card. We had 12 games on the docket tonight. One has already been postponed. That was the Mets in Colorado to take on the Rockies. So that game is postponed, but we still have 11 games to cover. One still does have rain in the forecast, so hopefully we will have some lineups out by the end of the show. We can go through some of the values and see what's going on. I just saw where Tampa Bay and Baltimore, that full game lineup is out. Let's get right into it. All statistics provided today and every day are from baseballreference.com. It is the best tool to see any kind of statistic you want to see regarding baseball. Home road splits, day-night splits, umpire statistics, ballpark statistics, anything you can imagine is there at Baseball Reference. Go check them out. It is well worth the investment. In the descriptions of all three videos to the streaming services, there are links to my social media. This is where I place my betting cards for the golf content I create, any interesting research that I find throughout the week for golf and baseball. So give me a follow at the links in the description if you want to be a part of that research. And then finally, we are live. Chat is open. Want to hear from you all. I think there is a lot of value in the pitching market. That way you can spend up on some prime hitters today. Do you see the same thing? Who's your favorite team? Who's your favorite player? Are you going to be using them today? And all that good stuff. So let's cover the May 20th MLB DraftKings lineup card. And we start with the aforementioned Tampa Bay at Baltimore. That is the first game on the DraftKings slate. And Tampa Bay is going with an opener, but a different type of opener. Usually openers go left-right and split the two. That way a lineup cannot load up against the starter or the opener and then not have consequences to the long relief. That's not the case here with Tampa Bay. They're going with two lefties, both Jalen Beeks and Ryan Yarbrough. Ryan Yarbrough has started quite a few games already, about 3 or 4. They are stretching him out, coming off the IL stint that he had during spring. So in this game, I really like some of the Baltimore hitters. Baltimore's been playing some pretty good baseball. Anthony Santander in particular is on fire right now, 3 homers in the past week. But first, let's cover the Tampa Bay lineup against Tyler Wells, who hasn't pitched all too bad. He's 1-3 with a 4.18. Certainly very low in the price board for starting pitchers. Don't think I'm going to go here for any starting pitcher of value in Wells. You've got a couple of options here for Tampa Bay. You have Mike Zunino. Normally he is a boom bust option. You're looking for the homer. He has a little bit of success against Tyler Wells. 1 for 2 with a walk. It is a homer. Again, usually a boom bust option, but at 4,400, he's generally in the low to mid 3,000s. At 4,400, I don't like the price for Zunino. And let me go ahead and bring up the lineups for this game. Zunino is hitting 8th, so I mean he really has to hit a homer to justify the price, and with only 4 at-bats maximum, unless this is a very high-scoring game, I just don't see that happening. On the other hand, Ji-Man Choi is part of a platoon split that Tampa Bay employs against, or at first base, I should say, depending on the opposing starter. Ji-Man Choi, the left-handed hitter in that platoon split against the right-handed throwing Tyler Wells. Ji-Man Choi's had a pretty good year so far, hitting 280. Not a lot of homers, only 5 doubles, but in 80 plate appearances, so not as bad of a ratio as you would think. He's also getting on base 39% of the time, slugging 477. I'm combining the two clearly. Slugging 477. Ji-Man Choi is hitting cleanup I don't see a lot of scoring in this game, especially from Tampa Bay, so I don't know if I will go to G-Man Choi at 3,800. There's quite a bit more first base value that I see, including on the opposite side of the diamond today in this same game. But that is an option for you. Not a lot of the Tampa Bay hitters have faced Tyler Wells. Randy Arozarena, 0 for 5 with a couple of strikeouts. Yandy Diaz, usually a pretty good value. He's 0 for 2. Mejia, 0 for 2. Harold Ramirez, 1 for 2. He's the right-handed part of that platoon at first base. So not a lot of plate appearance against Tyler Wells. Granted, I'm not going to go to Tyler Wells like I mentioned. Tampa Bay's offense is generally pretty good, just not a lot of plate appearances against Tyler Wells. But let's move to the Baltimore side, and I really like 3 players here for Baltimore, and it's really 2 of the same players and then adding Anthony Santander like I mentioned. Let's talk about Santander first. Santander is hitting only .235 on the season, but he has 7 home runs. Like I said, 3 of those coming this week. He has 20 walks. There is a lot to like here, even though with the low batting average, he's still getting on base better than 35% of the time. Thanks to the home run output, he's slugging .430. And against the combination of Jalen Beeks and Ryan Yarbrough, he is 6 for 19, hitting .316 with 1.75 points per plate appearance. So at 3,000, I really like that value from Santander. And then Austin Hayes, we've talked about him for the 3 weeks that I've been doing baseball content. He is still hitting .287. A lot of doubles, not a lot of homers, but a lot of doubles. 11 doubles and 145 plate appearances. He's hitting .353 against the combination of Jalen Beeks and Ryan Yarbrough, averaging a little over 1.7 points per plate appearance. But the best player that I like in this game is Trey Mancini, having a all-star caliber year, hitting .292. Not a lot of extra base hits, or at least not as many as you would think, but still gets on base 35% of the time. And against this combination of Jalen Beeks and Ryan Yarbrough, Trey Mancini's hitting .469. He is 15 for 32, 6 doubles, 3 homers in his career. I really like Trey Mancini. Now you have your clear high-end options. But if you're looking for a mid-tier price first baseman, take a look at Trey Mancini. I really like his matchup today against the lefty opener and lefty long relief of Tampa Bay. We move to Game 2, and this is a complete rerun of a game that I had last week, except it was in Dodger Stadium. This one is in Citizens Bank. It is the Dodgers at the Phillies wrapping up their season series, and this is the same exact pitching matchup from last Saturday. It is Julio Urias facing Ranger Suarez. Urias got shelled last time out. Bryce Harper and company lit him up for 8 runs. Let me bring up that box score as I get through all these tabs here. Let's see. Box score. So Urias last time out against these same Phillies team last Saturday, 6 innings, 8 hits, 5 earned runs, struck out 4, walked 3. It was not a good day for Julio Urias. Like I mentioned, Bryce Harper hit a double and a homer off of him. Schwarber hit a homer. Segura hit a homer. It was a big day for the Phillies offense, and I don't see that changing today. The wind at Citizens Bank is expected to be blowing out to left center. Hey, P, thanks for jumping in. How's your weekend going? You just missed the first game on the docket, Tampa Bay and Baltimore. If you haven't seen or heard, the Mets and Colorado is postponed today. So if you've already filled out some lineups, make sure you change those. But you're not missing much, and you're missing a recap of how wrong I was on this game last week. I really liked Julio Urias. He got shelled, but I don't see Urias doing well in this game, especially with the wind blowing out to left in Citizens Bank. I've highlighted several guys here for the Phillies that have really good numbers, and I think will be very good plays today with the homer expectation. Bryce Harper, no explanation needed, really. He's hitting 250 off of Julio Urias, 3 hits in 12 at bats, all of them being extra base hits, 2 homers. A lot to like here with Bryce Harper averaging almost 3 points per plate appearance against Urias. Rhys Hoskins, power hitting first baseman for Philadelphia, is 2 for 8. The same average as Bryce Harper against Julio Urias. Hoskins also hit a homer last week against him. A lot to like there. Gene Segura, second base. Now, that is a hefty price to pay for a second baseman today. There are a couple of second basemen that I like later on in the slate. If you are a big believer in the Phillies offense today, Segura is probably going to be worth it. 2 for 6, the aforementioned homer he hit last week against Julio Urias. He's hitting 294 on the year, 6 homers, 5 steals. Segura is an all-around good player, having a great season so far. And then the 3 outfielders for the Phillies, again, the aforementioned Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, 3 for 6 in his career against Urias, so no homers, but a couple of extra base hits. He's hitting 271, 9 doubles, 5 homers. He's averaging 1.75 points per play appearance on the season. A lot to like here, especially at the price of $3,800 if you're trying to squeeze in some prime players. And I think there are a lot in the outfield today. His teammate Bryce Harper being one of them. And then Kyle Schwarber, again, low batting average, a lot of slugging here, 9 homers on the year. Actually has stolen a couple bases, so not a complete waste on the bases. Could get you those 5 points there. But the homer last week helps me believe that Schwarber could be very useful against the lefty throwing Julio Urias. If you are trying to use Julio Urias today, it's for the strikeouts. Clearly a strikeout pitcher, but with the wind blowing out in Citizens Bank, I just don't see Julio Urias being near worth the price at $9,200. And then let's talk about Ranger Suarez against this Dodgers lineup. Again, the Dodgers lineup always loaded. You don't like trying to beat them. Ranger Suarez at $7,200 is interesting. And last week against that same Dodgers lineup, Ranger Suarez went 7 innings, gave up 3 runs, 6 strikeouts. He pitched extremely well. Mookie Betts did tag him for a homer, but that's Mookie Betts doing Mookie Betts things. Ranger Suarez presents some interesting value maybe, but again, with the wind blowing out, don't advise it. And then the 3 players that have really good numbers against Ranger Suarez are highlighted here. Freddie Freeman, 3 walks, a double, hitting 250 off of Ranger Suarez, but it's the all-around talent that Freddie Freeman is. 14 doubles, only 3 homers this year, but he doesn't have to pull the ball to get his power production. He's still hitting .312 this year, averaging almost 2 points per plate appearance. There's a lot to like with Freddie Freeman. Trey Turner is the one player that does have a lot of exposure with his time previously in Washington. 3 for 9, a couple of doubles, but it's Trey Turner usually hitting 3rd in the lineup here for this loaded Dodgers lineup. Close to the league lead in steals, 12 extra base hits, a lot to like here with Trey Turner. And then Mookie Betts, the general leadoff hitter for this Dodgers team. The power output starting to come back, 8 homers now on the season, averaging more than 2 points per plate appearance. Mookie Betts only 2 for 4 against Ranger Suarez. The 2 are being homers. So the top 3 in the order for the Dodgers are highlighted here. You can never really go wrong with taking quite a few Dodgers in your lineup, especially when the wind's blowing out. So not going to touch this game pitching-wise. Intrigued by a couple of the price value or mid-price options here for Philadelphia. And if I have the money, I might take Mookie Betts or a Bryce Harper. But I'm really interested in Nick Castellanos and perhaps Rhys Hoskins. But again, I see some first base value a little bit, especially the aforementioned Trey Mancini later on. So there is a look at the exact replica of the game last week that I got completely wrong. And I see this being a high-scoring game, so that naturally means it's going to be 2-1, and you should have taken both pitchers. But that's the way I see it today. We move to Game 3 and another replica of last week for the most part. The pitching matchup is a tad bit different. We moved to Yankee Stadium, and the Yankees and White Sox were in the South Side last week, taking on the same White Sox. But the pitching matchup this time is Dallas Keuchel versus Nestor Cortes. Another battle of lefties. Last week it was Keuchel versus Montgomery. And let me bring up that game, as Dallas Keuchel ended up pitching a whole lot better than I thought he was going to, because I wanted to load up with Yankees that day, and it did not work out well for me at all. It was a 3-2 ball game. Keuchel went 5 innings, only gave up 4 hits, no runs. Now, he's not a strikeout pitcher. He's only averaging 6 points per start this year. He has not pitched well, last outing notwithstanding. So a lot to like here by the numbers for the Yankees. The same 5 players are highlighted. Giancarlo Stanton last week did hit a double off of him. His power, no explanation needed. Just a reminder, Giancarlo Stanton 6 for 11 in his career against Dallas Keuchel, double and 2 homers, 3.5 points per plate appearance in his career against Dallas Keuchel. A lot to like here. This is one of the prime players that I'd be willing to spend some money on today with those numbers. Elsewhere, Josh Donaldson, I was very high on him last week. Did not perform to the level I was hoping for. He did get on base. He had a single, so it was 3 points. But his numbers off of Dallas Keuchel are quite tremendous. 9 for 38, double, 2 homers, 5 walks. Generally hits Dallas Keuchel well. Kiner Falefa actually had a pretty good game for me. He was one of the players that really came through for me. He was 1 for 4 with a steal. Just good all-around numbers from Kiner Falefa last week. So really like this matchup as I did last week for the Yankees. And Nestor Cortes, the one high-price pitcher that I really, really like today. I'm going to try to insert him in as many lineups as I can. He is the highest-priced pitcher today, but pitched extremely well. You see it there, 2-1, sub 1.5 ERA, 49 strikeouts in 40 innings. He's pitching great, more than 23 points per start. I feel that Nestor Cortes is a pretty safe play today, although with the right-handed loaded White Sox lineup, it's a little bit worrying, but the numbers against Nestor Cortes aren't great. I've highlighted the one player that has some decent numbers. That's Tim Anderson, 3 for 8. They're all singles. Cortes has struck out quite a few of these White Sox hitters plenty of times. So I like Cortes. But if you're not in on Nestor Cortes, take a look at Tim Anderson. I don't love it at 5,400, but if there's somebody that you're wanting to use from the Southsiders, it would be Tim Anderson. So that's a look at the White Sox and the Yankees. The fourth game today is Cincinnati at Toronto, and the Reds make their debut on Calls. Seemingly they have had a day game every single time that I have done some content, or at least early evening games that weren't on the nightly slate. So a decent little pitching matchup here. Luis Castillo and Hyun-Jin Ryu. I don't know if I'm going to go to either of these pitchers. If I did, surprisingly, it's going to go Luis Castillo. The worry is that he just doesn't rack up the innings. He has only had 2 starts, 5 innings per. The strikeouts just aren't there yet. He's only averaging 8.5 points per start. But conversely, Ryu's only averaged 3 points per start. He has not pitched well, as you see there. 0-0, 9 ERA, a lot of hits given up. I just don't like a lot in this game. I really don't. Now, if you're trying to save some money at second or short, take a look at Matt Reynolds. His numbers against Ryu, not too bad. 3 for 8 with a homer, 2.5 points per plate appearance in his career against Ryu. Not too bad, especially at 2,900. You have to make sure he's in the lineup. But I like that potential matchup. And then I highlighted Brandon Drury at 5,300. That's quite pricey. I don't know if I'll get there, but his numbers just on the season in particular have been great. 7 homers, hitting 245 with a 509 slugging. He's hitting for power. Simply put, he's hitting for power. That's why he's 5,300. But this offense for the Reds has been pretty anemic. Don't really want much part of it. If Reynolds is hitting at the top of the lineup, it's intriguing. But at the same time, the Toronto offense is struggling mightily. You see here, I'm not highlighting any of the big names for Toronto. Instead, I'm going to highlight somebody that used to play in Colorado. Raimel Tapia has some fantastic numbers against Luis Castillo. 5 for 8, a double, a triple, and a homer. A lot to like there. Tapia has generally been playing every day for the Blue Jays. Now, I'm hoping he will hit first or second. Probably not going to happen. He's been anywhere from 7th, 8th, or 9th. But at 2,600 presents some interesting upside against a pitcher who he has had a lot of success against and who has struggled this year. So if you're looking for some value to try to squeeze in another prime time player, take a look at Raimel Tapia. He might be worth the look today. Game 5 on the slate. We go to Progressive Field, where the Tigers take on their divisional opponent in the Cleveland Guardians. A one-sided pitching matchup, seemingly. But I am not on Tarek Skubal. He's had a fantastic year so far. 3-2, 2.50 ERA, 45 strikeouts in 40 innings. Clearly the Tigers' best starter. And I've highlighted Jose Ramirez has great numbers against Skubal. 4 for 9 with a double, so a little bit light on the power, but has faced him quite a bit, has success. You're going to pay the premium for Ramirez being the best hitter in a pretty potent Cleveland offense. And then I highlighted Miles Straw. I highlighted him last week. Don't think he did well on Saturday when I mentioned him, but hitting at the top of this lineup, generally steals a lot of bases when he gets on base. Gets on base almost 38% of the time. There's a lot to like here with Miles Straw. He only has 7 doubles, no homers, but leads the team in steals with 8. And he has a little bit of success against Tarek Skubal. So there's a look from the Cleveland side. But I really like Detroit and its offense in this game, especially with the wind projected to be blowing straight out to center field, close to 15 miles an hour. There's a lot to like here in the power department. Even though you don't think of power from the players on Detroit that I've highlighted here, some of them will run into one. And against Aaron Savali, who has not pitched well at all, as you can see, has given up 35 hits in 25 innings, 5 points per start, 1-3 with an atrocious ERA. You have first Harold Castro at first and third eligibility today. He's somebody that I've highlighted a few times for the Tigers. Still hitting 292. It's a little bit of an empty 292 with only 3 doubles, 1 triple, and 1 homer. But still averaging more than 1.5 points per plate appearance. His numbers against Aaron Savali, 3 for 10 with a triple. So if you're looking for a very value price first baseman, take a look at Harold Castro, or even at third base. But there are a lot of good third base options this week. Josh Donaldson that I mentioned, and a couple more coming up. So take a look at Harold Castro if you're really needing some value, but I don't recommend it. I would recommend taking some value elsewhere. At the same time, Jeimer Candelario, a more mid-priced option here at third base for Detroit. His numbers against Aaron Savali, not too bad. 3 for 13, so only 231, but does have a triple and is having a little bit more power production lately. He's only hitting 205, but generally hits in the 4th, 5th area of the lineup in a game that I expect quite a bit of scoring with the wind blowing out. Robbie Grossman, right at 4,000 today, generally first or second in this lineup, having a decent season. He's getting on base 33% of the time. His numbers against Savali, very good. 3 for 8 with a homer, a couple walks. He can steal you a base if he gets on. Like Robbie Grossman, if you're looking for a mid-priced option in the outfield. And then finally, if you're really wanting to go bargain bin, take a look at Akil Baddoo. He's only hitting 140 this year. You don't like that, but it's the numbers against Savali that draw you to him. 2 for 7 with a triple and a homer. Not a recommended play, but somebody you can certainly go to that has some upside for as low price as he is. So again, probably not going much in this pitching matchup with the wind blowing straight out. Tarek Skubal, generally a really good pitcher. I just see this as a high-scoring game. I like Jose Ramirez a lot. I like Robbie Grossman a lot. 4,000 is a little bit steep. I just see this as a high-scoring game, so no pitching here. We move to Game 6, and this is the game I am all over today. The wind is blowing straight out to left at Fenway Park. So any regular fly ball is going to find the monster seats today. And you can see just how many players I've highlighted for each team. I don't mind stacking this entire game as my entire lineup. I just think this is going to be an astronomically high-scoring game, which if you know anything about me now means that this game's going to be 1-0, because that's how things work around here. Now the pitching matchup is quite interesting. Robbie Ray, 4-3, lots of strikeouts, 50 strikeouts already this season. He's not pitched terrible to a 4.62 ERA, but again, a lefty facing a right-handed potent lineup from Boston with the wind blowing out. Now, surprisingly, you might see that one player is not highlighted here for Boston. It's JD Martinez. His numbers against Robbie Ray are quite putrid. 1 for 10, 3 strikeouts. I don't want anything to do with JD Martinez today. Instead, if I'm going to spend money, it is going to be up on Xander Bogaerts, on Trevor Story, who had a monstrous game last night, 3 homers. I don't expect that kind of power output, but I would not be surprised if he hit another one today. His numbers against Robbie Ray from Story's time in Colorado and Robbie Ray's time in Arizona, very, very good. 8 for 27, 3 homers, 10 walks, averaging 2 points per plate appearance against Robbie Ray in his career. Really like Trevor Story today at second base, probably one of my locks for the day. The aforementioned Xander Bogaerts, love his matchup as well. 3 for 11 with a homer against Robbie Ray. Generally not a ton of strikeouts from him. But the 2 players I really want to highlight for you all from Boston's side. First, I'm going to highlight their usual leadoff hitter, Kike Hernandez. Kike used to play for the Dodgers. Again, Robbie Ray used to be in Arizona, so a lot of familiarity here. Kike Hernandez, 12 for 51, so only a 235 batting average, but 3 doubles, a triple, and 5 homers from Kike Hernandez against Robbie Ray. Quite a few walks as well. He averages 2 points per plate appearance, just like Trevor Story. I really like the value Kike Hernandez can present today, hitting at the top of a lineup that I expect to score a lot of runs today. And Trevor Story the same, especially if it's Kike leading off and Trevor Story hitting second. I'm going to stack that as many times as possible. Bogart's generally hitting fourth, and so on down the line. But the one huge value that I'm hoping he's in the lineup today is Kevin Plawecki, catching for the Red Sox. And not to say that Christian Vasquez would be a bad deal. Vasquez is, I think, 27 to 2,800, but Plawecki at 2,500. His numbers from the time he was in New York with the Mets, when Robbie Ray was in Arizona. Plawecki in his career against Robbie Ray, 5 for 11 with a double and a homer. That is pretty good value for somebody who is priced at 2,500, and a position that does not generally produce a lot of offensive output. Even if he just gets a couple of singles, he's going to pay off his price, especially in a lineup that, again, I expect to score a lot of runs, so he might sneak in an RBI or two or get scored a couple of times. Hopefully Plawecki is in the lineup. I really like the value he presents. And the same side for Seattle. I like a lot of their hitters in this game. Now, Michael Wacha has pitched very, very well. 3-0, 138 ERA. But you see the price at 7,400. He is simply not a strikeout pitcher. You are expecting a lot of innings, a lot of quality innings from Michael Wacha. And even though he has pitched well, he is coming off the IL, and the wind is blowing out, I don't like what he's coming back from, or I don't like what he's coming back to coming off the IL. I've highlighted 5 players here for Seattle that I really like. Let's start with Ty France. Last week, he was in the high 4,000s, 47, 4,800. He's at 3,600 today, and his numbers against Michael Wacha are quite impressive. 5 for 6 with 2 doubles. Not a lot of plate appearances, but the ones that he's had have been very, very good. So I really like that as a mid-tier option along with Trey Mancini. So those 2 first basemen I like a lot today. Adam Frazier, from Frazier's time in Pittsburgh, Wacha's time in St. Louis. You have Adam Frazier, 4 for 12 with a double and a homer. Generally the leadoff leadoff hitter for Seattle in a lineup that I expect to score a lot of runs today. So a lot to like there, only at 4,100. Him and Story, I really like today. I'm going to use more Story than Adam Frazier, but I don't mind using Adam Frazier at all either. Let's talk about the big bopper for Seattle, Eugenio Suarez. Love Suarez today, even though he's a right-handed hitter against the right-handed throwing Wacha. Suarez, his time in Cincinnati against Michael Wacha. Suarez, 11 for 29. That's hitting 379 against Michael Wacha with a double and a homer. Yes, a bit light in the power department, but again, with somebody with a bunch of pull power, with success that he's had against Michael Wacha, the short fence, the monster, any high fly ball is going to carry. Really like Eugenio Suarez today. J.P. Crawford and Jesse Winker also with very good numbers against Michael Wacha. So a lot to like in this game from the hitting standpoint. If you go Robbie Ray, I don't blame you for the high strikeout upside, but these Boston hitters have such good numbers against him, I'd be wary. 8,000 is a fair price. Generally, you're paying in the upper 9s for Robbie Ray. So again, it's interesting, kind of like Ranger Suarez, interesting price, but the wind and the lineup success against these pitchers really give me pause to go anywhere near this game from a pitching standpoint. This is a game I'm going to attack heavily with hitters. So there's a look at the game in Fenway today. Game 7 on the slate. We are moving to Minute Maid for a divisional matchup with the Rangers and the Astros. Another thing that I got extremely wrong last week. I was very high on Christian Javier against Washington. he got lit up. Shot, how you doing? Thanks for jumping in. Normally see you in the golf stream. Thanks for jumping in for some baseball content today. Hopefully your week is going well and your weekend has started off okay. Got demolished in golf and went crazy with Cantley. Yep. I am sorry to hear that. I was actually pretty fortunate that a lot of the lineups I generated did not have Cantley. I'm lucky in that department. A couple of the calls that I've made for golf also didn't work out. Had a couple of good ones, had a couple of bad ones. We'll review that Sunday night, which is it's going to be pretty comical. But we come back here to Minute Maid for Texas and Houston. Again, something that I got very, very wrong last week. I was really high on Christian Javier. His ERA was sub 1 heading into that game last week with Washington. It jumped all the way to 3.2. That tells you how bad of an outing it was. And not a lot to like here for Christian Javier either. The two hitters I've highlighted for Texas, very good values. Cole Calhoun, in his career against Christian Javier, 6 for 8, a double and 2 homers at 2,600. That is a lot of potential output for very minimal price. And if Houston leaves the roof open, the wind is projected to blow out in Houston as well. Houston has the ability to close that roof. It depends on the weather, the heat, what they decide to do. If they leave the roof open, I see this being another high-scoring game. Cole Calhoun, aforementioned, very high success against Christian Javier. And then Willie Calhoun for Texas at the bargain basement price of $2,000, the bare minimum. 2 for 9, not a lot of success, but the 2 hits are 2 homers. So quite a boom-bust option that has a little bit of success against the starter for a bare minimum price. Not too bad. Take a look at Willie Calhoun. Now, his season is not going well at all. Cole Calhoun's is. He's not getting on base. Sub 300 on base percentage, but slugging 437. Cole Calhoun, 5 homers, third on this team in RBIs. I like the potential value there for Cole Calhoun. And then Martin Perez against this loaded Houston lineup. Martin Perez has easily been the Texas' best pitcher. 2-2, 2.01 ERA. Not a lot of strikeouts, but he's just pitched effective. This is just not a good matchup for Martin Perez. A lot of the right-handed sluggers for Houston. Yordan will be out. Yeah, see, I don't even have him highlighted today. Yordan Alvarez has middling numbers against Texas starter Martin Perez. He's only 1 for 6. Now, the players that do have some value here, I mentioned Kevin Plawecki for Boston. Martin Maldonado is a very, very light-hitting catcher. We all get it, but look at the price. It's $3,100. Generally, he's close to the bottom. He's in the low 2,000s. DraftKings knows he's had success against Martin Perez. In his career, 9 for 17 with 3 doubles. Doesn't sound like a lot, but in a position that doesn't get a lot of offensive output generally, I'd be willing to take a chance on a guy that's hitting .529 against the opposing starter, especially at 3,100. Yuli Gurriel, a lot of good numbers against Martin Perez, 7 for 17, all of them being singles, so you don't like that. But on the season, Yuli Gurriel hitting .242, 13 doubles, generally getting on base for this loaded Houston team, probably going to get driven in a couple of times. I like Yuli Gurriel at 3,900, Trey Mancini 4,000, Ty France 3,700. There's a lot to like in the first base market today. And then lastly, the leadoff hitter for Houston, Jose Altuve. Again, the table setter for this Houston lineup, hitting .295 in his career against Martin Perez. 7 doubles. We all know his propensity to steal a base when he gets on. Having a good year so far, hitting .286. already has 8 homers and he's missed a little bit of the season. A lot to like here with Jose Altuve. So if you want to spend up at second base, if you don't want to spend up on Trevor Story, if you don't want to use the mid-price options of Trevor Story and Adam Frazier, you can spend up on Jose Altuve. That's a pretty good play today. I'm along the same lines with you, Shot. Yuli, Altuve, they're going to be pretty good, I believe, against Martin Perez. But the one player that I am advocating you stay away from, and this is just because of how many plate appearances and his lack of success, Alex Bregman has not hit Martin Perez well at all. 3 for 21, quite a few strikeouts. He's averaging less than 0.7 of a point per plate appearance in his career against Martin Perez. Now, that certainly could change today, but just based on the numbers, stay away from Alex Bregman, especially since I believe there's enough value at third base as well. So there is a look at the Houston and Texas game. We move to Game 8 in a game that I am all about in the pitching market. This is where I want to go for pitching for both teams. I don't think I would mind using both of these guys in lineups today. The Twins, Devin Smeltzer, has one outing this season. It was very, very good last week. And Daniel Lynch has been the Royals' best pitcher this year. 2-2, but a 3.3 ERA, averaging 1 strikeout per inning at 6,700. You got to like that, and the wind is projected to blow in at Kauffman, in from right field. So it's going to kill any left-handed power today. Max Kepler against the left-handed hitting Daniel Lynch, generally not going to be an issue. Now, Byron Buxton, if you want to spend up on that, I don't blame you, but understand that he's going to be hitting into the wind. Josh, thanks for jumping in on the baseball chat. I appreciate it. Usually see you in the golf content. Glad to see you join in for some baseball. You mentioned that the Yankees game was postponed. I have not seen that yet. I saw that the Mets and Rockies were postponed. But so you're saying that the White Sox and Yankees are now postponed. That was the game, the other game with rain in the forecast. So let me double check that here real quick, and we will see if. Yeah, looks like they're postponed. So now with Nestor Cortez off of the pitching board, a lot to like here with these two pitchers in a game that if I think Seattle and Boston's going to be high scoring, Texas and Houston's going to be high scoring. I think this is going to be a 1-0, 2-1 type game. So we all know how this works. It's going to be 13-10, and you should avoid this game from the pitching standpoint. Bregman is cold, talking about the previous game, Houston and Texas. But in this game, Minnesota and Kansas City, I like Daniel Lynch, the lefty, against a pretty right-handed dominant Minnesota Twins lineup. And the lefties that the Twins do deploy have not been hitting well. And at the same time, Devin Smeltzer, his numbers against these Royals hitters are pretty darn good, and especially with the Royals missing Salvador Perez, a lot of their power output is just gone. It's just gone. So the hitters that I've highlighted here, Jorge Polanco having a pretty good season for the Twins, hitting .235 but slugging near 400, is getting on base at a decent clip. He's 2 for 5 in his career against Daniel Lynch. Switch hitting second baseman. Again, 4,600, not a price that I'm crazy about, especially when I can get Trevor Story for cheaper. But that is the one player that I would ponder using today from the Twins side. And then on the Royal side, Carlos Santana actually has some pretty good numbers against Devin Smeltzer in his career. Carlos Santana 3 for 9 with a homer, but I just don't like where he's been this season. On the year, Carlos Santana is hitting 122. His slugging is below 200. I'm not there with Carlos Santana. He clogs up the bases as well, so he won't steal any bases. He's station to station. I don't like Carlos Santana, but I did highlight him. If you want to go on prior success against the pitcher. And then Nicky Lopez does present some possible value at second or short, 2,400. I'll be much more interested in Nicky Lopez if he's hitting first or second as opposed to ninth for the Royals today. Now, Devin Smeltzer against the prime of this Royals lineup. Whit Merrifield, 0 for 8 in his career against Devin Smeltzer. Benintendi's never faced him. Hunter Dozier's only 1 for 4. A lot of these Royals hitters have never faced Smeltzer, so I like Smeltzer. And at 5,100, he's one of the cheapest pitchers, if not the cheapest pitcher on the board today. A lot to like with Devin Smeltzer. Really like Devin Smeltzer. I really like Daniel Lynch. So I'm not going anywhere near this game hitting-wise. Maybe if I'm trying to save some money and Nicky Lopez is at the top of the lineup, I'll think about it. But otherwise, I have no interest from a hitting standpoint. So, Game 9, Washington in Milwaukee to take on the Brewers. And now with Nestor Cortes out, the highest priced pitcher on the board is Eric Lauer. 3-1, having a fantastic season. 49 strikeouts and 35 innings. The 35 innings are in 6 starts, so you're getting almost 6 innings per start. That is fairly uncommon in today's game. Lauer averaging almost 25 points per start. You really like that. And his numbers against all of the Nationals, except for the 2 that I've highlighted, are very good. Of course, being a strikeout pitcher, he's got a lot of strikeouts against these hitters. But Juan Soto, even though a left-handed and Lauer a left-handed throwing pitcher, Soto's got some very good numbers against Eric Lauer. 4 for 9 with a homer, 3 walks. Soto's power is starting to come. Teams are now having to pitch to him with Josh Bell producing. Michael Franco is now starting to produce. Teams just can't quite pitch around Juan Soto anymore. And especially with Yadiel Hernandez having been inserted into this lineup, usually in the cleanup spot, providing protection for Soto and Josh Bell. Yadiel Hernandez having a very good season, but somebody I would not want to play today, as he is generally a left-handed platoon with Lane Thomas. I imagine Lane Thomas will get the start. Lane Thomas is having an okay season. He is 2 for 3 in his career against Eric Lauer with a double. Is a very a very left-handed facing platoon split for Lane Thomas. Interesting. I didn't highlight him. But Josh Bell is a first baseman that I might be willing to spend up on switch hitting, so you don't have to worry about that. His numbers from his time with Pittsburgh, 4 for 12 with a double, quite a few strikeouts, but there is some success there from Josh Bell. I like Eric Lauer, and especially now with Nestor Cortes off of the pitching board, might have to go Eric Lauer if you want to spend up in the pitching market. And then for Washington for Eric Fedde against this Milwaukee lineup, not a lot of exposure, or not a lot of plate appearances against Eric Fedde. Christian Yelich, 2 for 4, the best hitter, arguably. Rowdy Tellez might have a say in that, but Christian Yelich only hitting 237, but the power is starting to come back. 14 extra base hits, gets on base 33.5% of the time, 5 steals, so you like that. Someone else, maybe, even though I didn't highlight him, Colton Wong, perhaps. He is hitting 246, does have slugging percentage over 420, which is very rare for Colton Wong, and also has 8 steals. So Colton Wong, depending on price, might be interesting, but not a lot I want to do here with the hitting. If I do come in here, it'll be for Eric Lauer, maybe Josh Bell, but I won't feel great about it, especially with the first base values that I see in the middle part of the price board. Game 10 was rained out. New York in Colorado. So we skip to Game 11 in another what I'll call semi run it back. Chase Silseth is making his second career start against the same Oakland A's that he faced last time out. Chase Silseth went 6 innings, gave up 1 hit, no walks, very few strikeouts, so he's not a strikeout pitcher, but got 23.5 points in that start. The Oakland offense is just anemic. It is awful. Now, with Oakland having seen him now once, perhaps they make the adjustment. I've highlighted a couple of players here, even though they're right-handed against the right-handed throwing Silseth. Murphy and Laureano. Murphy, the power hitting catcher for Oakland. The wind is supposed to be blowing out to left today at Angel Stadium. Murphy went 0 for 2, but made contact at least against Silseth. And then Ramon Laureano did draw a walk against Silseth. Generally the best player for Oakland, or at least I believe. Yes, it is sad that I'm highlighting guys that went 0 for 2 and 0 for 1 with a walk because they made contact. That's how bad this Oakland offense is. Especially against the pitcher that they don't have a lot of plate appearances against. And I'm not going to highlight Elvis Andrus. He had the 1 hit off of Chase Silseth. If you're going down to Elvis Andrus, we need to sit down and have an intervention. But that's the look from Oakland side. I mean, this offense is just terrible. I don't want any part of it. Silseth provides a little bit of intrigue, but generally I would think that the Oakland hitters will make an adjustment against Silseth. I imagine 2 to 3 runs. That's generally how this is going to go, especially since the Angels weren't even guaranteeing Silseth a second start even after the stellar one he had last time. So not too crazy about that. And I'm not too crazy about the other side either. Now, Paul Blackburn, 1.67 ERA, 4-0, has pitched spectacular this year. 29 strikeouts in 38 innings, but he's only averaging 17.8 points per start, and 8,500 is quite a bit to pay for that. Having said that, there's only a couple of players that have any kind of success against Blackburn, and it's the 2 I've highlighted, Shohei and Brandon Marsh. Fernando, how you doing? Thanks for jumping in. Appreciate you jumping in on some of this baseball content. How you doing so far at the start of your weekend? Let's see. Shohei Ohtani, 2 for 3 with a double, and Brandon Marsh, 2 for 3 as well. So not a lot to like in this game. I really I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling this game at all. Maybe the pitchers, just because both of these offenses are generally pretty bad. Now, the Angels' offense has been good, but Paul Blackburn has been good too. So not sure which way I want to lean there. And then Silseth against Oakland is a toss-up as well for me in my mind. So not going really anywhere near this game. And then finally, the last game on the docket is San Diego going to Oracle to face the Giants. And this is a game that I really, really like. Potential for both sides of the coin here, pitching and hitting, depending on how you view this game. The wind is blowing out to right center, but Oracle Park, the deepest part of their ballpark, is right center, 415 feet. So how much is that really going to play a factor? Going to be interesting to see. Sean Manaea, 2-3, but a very good ERA at 3.77, 50 strikeouts in 43 innings. You really like that. No hit batters, only 14 walks. So Andres is horrendous, yeah. But for Sean Manaea, a lot to like here. Now, some of the San Francisco hitters have had quite a bit of success against him. Darren Ruff, right-handed hitting, first base and outfield eligible. He's got a lot of walks against Sean Manaea, so 1.2 points per plate appearance doesn't sound great, but when you have a power hitting player with the wind blowing out, it's always interesting. Wilmer Flores, first and third base eligible today for San Francisco. His numbers against Sean Manaea pretty darn good, 5 for 13 with a couple of doubles. Flores is having a decent little season, 261, slugging over 400. So Wilmer Flores having a solid season and solid success against the starting pitcher. You like that at 3,400. Perhaps you want to go with some value at third base. Present some there. Brandon Crawford and Mike Yastrzemski are two other players that I want to highlight. Both lefties, but Brandon Crawford in his career against Shamanaya 5 for 14 with a couple of doubles, so pretty good numbers there. And Yastrzemski's 2 for 4 with a triple and a walk. So a lot to like from the Giants offense here. But again, it's Shamanaya, one of the better pitchers in the National League. It's an interesting matchup. It's a very interesting matchup. And then finally, to round out the lineup card and the players that I like, Jacob Junis, pitching for the Giants, 1-1, 1.74 ERA, has pitched very, very well, 16.5 points per start, going up against a lineup that generally has not had success against him when they faced him. Very little plate appearances against Junis. Junis coming over from Kansas City, so a lot of the Padres hitters have never seen him. Having said that, you do have Luke Voigt, 2 for 5, so a little bit of success here, and the power hitting Voigt in a game that the wind is supposed to be blowing out, always interesting. And then Manny Machado, just matchup proof, hitting 355 on the year, 6 stolen bases, 7 homers, a lot to like there for the Padres third baseman. So that is a look at the games for today. Let me bring up DraftKings again and make sure I have not missed any of the lineups. So let me bring you back to the, what I'll say, the home screen or whatnot. We are going to see if there are any other lineups out. Earlier, we did cover Tampa Bay and Baltimore a little bit. We saw the we covered Tampa Bay's lineup. We didn't really cover Baltimore's. So let's make sure we do that. Games that are lineups are out. There are 5 full games that lineups are out. So we covered Tampa Bay a little bit. I only highlighted Mike Zunino and Ji-Man Choi. Zunino hitting 8th at the price. I don't like him today. Now for Baltimore, let me bring back to these games here. Baltimore, highlighted those 3 players. They are all in the lineup. Austin Hayes hitting 2nd, Trey Mancini hitting 3rd, and Santander hitting 4th. About to make San Francisco stack against Manaea, who I think, hey, there you go. I like it. There's a couple of ways I can see that game going, and a lot of those players were pretty darn valuable, at least mid-priced options. So I don't hate that idea, Shot. I really don't. But again, it's Shamanaya. He's one of the better pitchers. You can see him kind of dominating that game. So a couple of different ways to look at it, certainly. I'm kind of on the fence. I might have a lineup with a giant stack that you mentioned, and I might have a game with Manaea, or a lineup with Manaea. But to round out this game here, Austin Hayes 2nd, Trey Mancini 3rd, Santander hitting 4th. I want no part of Cedric Mullins. His numbers against these 2 lefties are absolutely atrocious. Let's move to Philadelphia, cover that game again just very quickly. With the wind blowing straight out to left, I don't want any part of the pitchers in this game. Mookie, Freddie, and Trey Turner, just like I thought, the start of the Dodgers lineup, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. You like that. You're going to be paying the premium for them, but you like that. And then for the Phillies, Hoskins is leading off. Castellanos is hitting 3rd. Segura is hitting 4th. Schwarber hitting 5th. They are giving Bryce Harper the day off. So make sure you realize that. I wish I had a way. That's something I need to work on for my baseball content, is to create a cross-off for some of these players. But Bryce Harper is not in the lineup. So that is one player you are not going to want to spend up on. But I like Nick Castellanos. Hoskins leading off is interesting. Not a lot of RBI potential. So if I come to this game, might be on the Dodgers side and maybe squeeze in a Nick Castellanos. The 3rd lineup out, Cincinnati and Toronto. Let's move there very quickly. In here, Matt Reynolds is leading off for Cincinnati, so that provides some intrigue. at the top of the lineup for Cincinnati, 2,900. Really like the value there. If you're trying to save some money at second or at short, especially shortstop, there are a few second basemen that I like. We talked about Trevor Story. We talked about Adam Frazier. On the shortstop side, if you're not going Brandon Crawford or Xander Bogaerts, there's not a lot there. If you want to believe in the both of the other shortstops are ranked out. I was going to talk about Kiner Falefa, and I was going to talk about Jose Iglesias. Both of those games are out. So if you're not going to spend on Crawford or Bogaerts, Matt Reynolds is interesting at shortstop. So take a look there. Even though that Reds offense is not spectacular, Joey Votto is back for the Reds. So that provides some interesting potential there as well. And then for Toronto, you have got Tapia hitting 6th. Generally, he's 7th, 8th, or 9th. Really like Tapia and his numbers against Luis Castillo in his career. So Tapia provides some interesting value for the outfield today. 2 more lineups, or full game lineups that are out, Cleveland and Detroit. We're going to try to cover these fairly quickly since going over a little bit over on time. Let's see, for Detroit, Grossman is leading off. I do like the fact that he's leading off. 4,000 a bit heavy, but at least he's leading off. If he was anywhere other than first or second, no thanks. But with him leading off, that's fine. Candelario hitting 5th. Okay. 3,100, not the best, especially when I highlighted Jose Ramirez in this same game, hitting 3rd. You've got Eugenio Suarez, who I really like in a high-scoring, or at least I think is going to be a high-scoring game in Boston. And then Miles Straw leading off, Jose Ramirez hitting 3rd, like usual for the Guardians. So you like that there. Akil Baddoo is not in the lineup, so you can cross him off there at the bottom. And then Harold Castro is getting the day off as well. So if you're going to come to the Tigers lineup, it's going to be Candelario or Grossman. Not in love with either one. So more than likely, if I go to this game, it'll be on Cleveland's offensive side. And the wind is supposed to be blowing straight out to center by a lot. So interesting, but not really. If I can find the price for, say, a Ramirez, great. If not, I'm not too bummed about it. And then the last full game lineup that is out is Seattle at Boston. We talked about this game quite a bit. Interesting pitching matchup, but the wind blowing straight out to left, so any fly ball is going to carry into the monster seats. You see I've highlighted 10 players. I don't mind having a full stack in this game. Trying to fit as many players as I can. Frazier leading off for Seattle. Ty France hitting 2nd. You have Winker 5th. Eugenio Suarez hitting 6th. I don't like that. I wish you were higher up in the orders, particularly 4th. His numbers against Michael Walker are great, but seeing him 6th certainly deflates his value a little bit. So